and I remain neutral among or on top of anybody. That's why they're in jail. However, I'm not stating or implying that, take for example my case, whistleblowing, exposing the sex trafficking and trying to exonerate myself and everything else. That's how it all began for me. The alleged assaulting a police officer and alleged obstruction. And just before I forget, keep slightly in a moment, political prisoners. So in jail. Now I'm not stating or implying people who are being called politicians, whatever you want to call them. There's a difference there. Everything else doesn't matter. And I'm highlighting that because charge, however, what happens is when there's becomes and that has to deal with something that it's not even a language. I got a burp on top of all that. With a breach of a court order. I don't even like this. Keep in mind, that trial lasted, and they're both considered summary offenses. The trial lasted 49 months before its conclusion. It's got to tell you something. But hello, it's July 2022, and I'm briefly going to talk about something that I've noticed popping up in social media, for example, and that's the whole term of political prisoner, and how there are some people in today's world over the past few years that are being called by people in social media political prisoners. Now, right off the top, by definition alone, political prisoner does not mean a jail out of free card right off the top. If somebody is legitimately a political prisoner, which I'll get into in a moment, it's just a designate, political prisoner, why someone's in prison for. Now, being a political prisoner, what you're doing is you're going against a particular form of government, whether it be established or incoming, or even perhaps even a previous one, depending on how the theater carries it out. But anyway, so you're going against a political structure and you go into prison. Now, I've said repeatedly over the years and for a long time that there are peripheral laws that are being used to enforce whatever, and it still applies. However, call it the backstory, has to be going against a particular, say for example, governing body even. That's a political prisoner. Now, somebody going against law, statute, acts, recommendation, mandates, whatever you want to call them, that is not being a political prisoner. Now, here's a key element, and I mentioned this in a few videos about specific individuals, I think within the past 6 months. These people, for example, they're not going along with the status quo, for example, on a particular topic, something that's being imposed. Now they get arrested. Now they have a charge they have to answer to with the courts. Now, at that point, the whole backstory on why or how it all began will apply to that initial charge. The problem is, and again, I'm just using this as an example, if there's a court order to do or not do something, and you breach that court order, now you're dealing with peripheral charges. And that could result into arrests, which could result into, if you get a delusional officer making the arrest, he can say, yes, I was assaulted, I was obstructed, you know, nothing comes to mind from my personal life with that, right? And now you're dealing with all these peripheral charges, and the whole backstory doesn't matter. Now, what could end up happening is that initial charge that had the backstory attached to it could just be dropped, and now that's it. It's never to be heard of again, and now you're dealing with all these other charges. That is not being a political prisoner. As well as there's no direct political interference in a case. Now, one would argue, well, there has to be political interference because somebody higher up had said this and everyone else below is following. That's not political interference. Political interference would be, for example, in my case, where you have a political governing body that's active interfering, for example, with a legal matter, both criminal as well as civil. And on top of all that, you'd have to prove that that has happened, which in my case, I have. But anyway, so there would be another link to being a political prisoner or someone convicted for political ties. Now, the whole backstory with my case, with these, as I'm going to call it, a descriptive, the elitist types, these influential men or whoever in the city of Calgary, and their ties in with City Hall and the former mayor, as well as other political parties in the province of Alberta. There's a lot of political people involved. However, it doesn't make my case or what I've gone through or what I'm living through as political anything, like political prisoner. It just means there's political people, because I'm not going against a government. I'm going against, for example, the ill treatment of these women as well as injustice. Now, going back to people today being called political prisoners, they're dealing with peripheral charges and they're not political prisoners. And I understand why people who support these individuals, and I'm not saying that I'm for or against these individuals, I'm actually remaining very neutral to give an unbiased position on what's going on. And I understand these people calling these individuals political prisoners, when in fact they're not. But they're doing the same mental gymnastics as the people who are imposing whatever it is that's being imposed on any topic. The same type of mental gymnastics. So basically, like trying to fight fire with fire type of thing. Everything burns in the end. So there's really no winner, right? So I really just wanted to address this whole political prisoner thing and how this is all being hyped up. And then the other thing that I've noticed, there's a real push for one particular individual who I've heard of over the past few years, who've made these sensational claims online with fighting for people's rights to not go along with things that were being imposed the past few years. And for some reason, this is being resurrected, this individual and a few others. And I just want to highlight how I've talked about extensively, there's online social media celebrities, and then they promote other people, and how another, as a descriptive, disinformation avenue gets created, and it gives people false hope and everything else, and a lot of falsehoods. And actually, a couple of these individuals that have been popping up lately, I've called out and crickets, or proven them to be wrong, inaccurate. I'm not saying that's deliberate, I'm just stating whatever. So we see a lot of this now, again, disinformation and exaggeration and mental gymnastics, trying to create something out of nothing, which is the very thing that these people who are fighting against whatever are accusing the other side of doing. Just be mindful of the information and who's promoting who with these online celebrities and what's being said. And that's all I'm really going to say. Okay? Oh, not everything I'm going to say. I just remembered. I want to highlight something that is very important. Why, for example, my case and my efforts are important to everyone on any topic. It doesn't matter. Because my case and my efforts with the injustice half shows in detail and over the years in real time how injustice unfolds and what people on any topic can unfortunately expect if that's the hand that they're dealt. When it boils down to down and out lies, when there's nothing else, that's what you're dealing with. They make the rules to suit them, to protect them. And again, with my story, with the whistleblowing exposing the sex trafficking or abuse of these vulnerable women, that morphed into injustice. Anyway, I just try to offer my experiences both professionally as well as personally. Take it or leave it. And again, I want to reiterate, I don't tell people what to say, think, or do. And I try to remain neutral on most topics. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.